Boxing Nocturnal Thoughts, man. My final thoughts on Errol Spence, Terrence Bud Crawford, Young and the Restless, General Hospital soap opera. You know what I'm saying? You have BOK Prime, Blue Blood, Adrian Broner, Floyd Money Mayweather, Terrence Bud Crawford, Bernie the Boxer, Errol Spence, Al Heyman, that whole cast. You know what I'm saying? So, at the end of the day, how I look at it, Errol Spence beat your Dana School guys, and that put him in a position. That put him at a high ground. That put him at an advantage point with the leverage, with the big guns, with Al Heyman, with PBC, with all the suit and tie guys, powers that be, and the momentum of coming off of a fight, of a victorious, hellacious beatdown where you literally broke somebody's eye socket, broke their nose, broke their ribs, and the proof is in the pudding. You can see the man body damage. Like, remember those old He-Man toys when you hit the chest and the chest flip over, you can see the battle damage? That's how he broke down your Dana School guys in that fight. So you're going into the momentum of negotiations with Terrence Bud Crawford, who just left Bob Arum. He has Bernie the Boxer, who is just has a little bitty, he like Who Hears a Who, that little Who'sville, where only that elephant can even know that they even exist. Bernie the Boxer, his voice is small, like this, like, you know what I'm saying? So he's yelling to the top of his lungs, trying to promote himself and Terrence Bud Crawford. You got Bo Mack, rhythm, you know what I'm saying? Find your rhythm up top, find your rhythm down to the bottom. And you got Terrence Bud Crawford, who's coming off a victorious, only person to defeat Sean Porter. But then you have Kenny Porter coming out saying, I knew I was going to throw the towel in because my son wasn't training the way I want him to train. My son doesn't have all these natural gifts like Terrence Bud Crawford and Errol Spence, these long arms, you know what I'm saying, the switch hitting or the power. My son has to train twice as hard to be half as good, and he halfway trained to fight for this fight. So I knew I was going to throw in the towel. And you have Kenny Porter saying, if I had to choose between who's going to win between Errol Spence and Terrence Bud Crawford, I'm picking Errol, because of his size, his strength, and his fundamentals. So Terrence Bud Crawford is trying to negotiate with the PBC and Al Heyman. And they have the big guns. And they taking these shots, sending him these contracts. And Terrence Bud Crawford, trying to be savvy, he's saying, I want more transparency. I agree to everything. I take this 35%. But since I'm fighting off of commission, I'm not getting set rate. I'm not getting a flat rate. I want to see transparency. Al Heyman and PBC and the big, they like, that's not the way we're going to do business. That's not the way we're going to do business. We're not going to show you the workings of the empire. What we will do is we will send you a contract. You and your team can look over the contract. Anything that y'all don't agree to, y'all can ask for an adjustment. Y'all can red line, send it back. We can look at it, have our team look at it. It's the lawyers working behind closed doors, working out the fine details, the devil's in the details. And that goes back and forth until we can reach an agreement. That's how we do business. Terrence Bud Crawford getting that pressure, seeing that he's at a disadvantage, he retreats. He retreats to the BLK, and he's trying to make his own boss moves. Since he's independent and he can move a little bit more freely, he goes to BLK Prime, which is a retreat move. It's a retreat move. It's the pressure. It's the negotiation tactics. It's the strategy that forces Bud to go somewhere else to try to find a point of an advantage. He got outflanked by Errol Spence. Errol Spence had the leverage and the big guns. And instead of saying, you know, it's like I said, if they was playing chess, Errol Spence was saying check. And instead of Terrence Bud Crawford allowing himself to be checkmated and flipping over his piece, he slid over to BLK Prime so that he could live to fight another day, which, like a Viking would do. A Viking knows when to retreat in battle so they can live to fight another day. Now, I don't know if I already said this in this video because I like to talk about different things. Like Vikings, it was said to me, I remember hearing that Vikings had a no retreat, no surrender mentality. And when they would land their boats ashore, since they was conquistadors, they would burn down their ships with the idea of that there's no retreat, no surrender, we come to conquer. But then later I hear other stories that contradict that. To say even the warrior of a Viking, a person that plunders and pillages, when they bit off more than they could chew, when they knew they were about to be defeated, they would retreat. They would run away. They would flee. And those are gladiators and warriors and Vikings. Okay? So, to have my final thoughts, Errol Spence put himself in a position to be the big fish, to be a shark in the ocean. And right now, he has a choice of what he wants to devour. Whether he wants to fight Standionis, or Keith Thurman, or Virgil, or Jerron Boots Ennis, or if he chooses to swim up here to 154. He's in that position, period, point blank. And I salute him. You know, go do what big fish go do what the sharks do. You know what I'm saying? If you find another scent of something that you want to go and bite down on, you go do that. Terrence Bud Crawford, he's with the BLK Prime. It's a new business. They give him $10 million. And people talking about Blue Blood making this money. And they, you know, we all heard everything that's being said about Blue Blood. And we all heard that's, you know, Adrian Broner is now on the BLK Prime situation. And Terrence Bud Crawford is getting a guaranteed $10 million. $10 million for me would be life-changing. So I would never turn my nose up to $10 million and say that ain't no money. Because to me, that is money. But do I say that's generational wealth? I don't know how much money he would have made with the Errol Spence. That's why I get a little bit conflicted when I hear him say, I wanted to have the transparency with the commission business model, but you've been locked into this flat rate for all those years without transparency. Because it's like if Bob, and I don't want to go into this deeply because it's not a deep conversation, but for me, it's like if Bob had you locked in at a flat rate of whatever, say he was giving you $7 million a fight locked in, and you was comfortable and felt safe with that, who's to know how much Bob was making? Even though Bob claimed he was losing all this money, but who's to know how much Bob was making while he had you locked in? So I do understand when you jump ship and you go somewhere else and you're trying to, really learn the business more. When you go somewhere else and you more uncomfortable and they telling you a different business model, that you want to say, oh, well, I need to know more information. I can see and understand that. But at the same time, it contradicts and it conflicts with you jumping into the ocean saying you want the big fish. Are you saying that Errol Spence needs to take his tail out of his butt? Or when you got Bernie the Boxer on his platform, calling Errol Spence a bitch and this, that, and the third. When it comes down to the fight, now it's you putting on your business hat. I salute it, and I won't call you a duck, but I will say you was in a position where if they would have beat you in the business, they probably would have beat you in the boxing ring. So you going over to BLK, it's like you graduating to increase your business education. So I can salute that and admire that. And it's cool. You know what I'm saying? But I look at it like when I hear other people acting like this 10 million is so, advantageous. It's like, oh, this generational wealth is $10 million. I mean, I understand. Like I said, 10 million would change my life. I hope to God to one day get a $10 million offer for whatever. But at the same time, generational wealth, money is relative anyway. It depends. You get $1 million, then all of a sudden $1 million ain't a lot of money. You get 10 million, all of a sudden 10 million, not a lot of money. But I know the first thing that popped in my mind when I keep hearing $10 million in generational wealth and blah, 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 I'm hearing or looking at Floyd Money Mayweather walking around with one of his watches costing $18 million. And the first thing that came to my mind in this whole General Hospital and Young and the Restless story is it made me think of that scene in The Dark Knight with the Joker, when he took out that boss, when Michael J. White was the boss and he took him out and he had two of his henchmen standing there and he just took the cue stick and he broke it and he said, which one of y'all want to join my team? Fight to the death. That's like Mayweather having two fighters. I ain't gonna say no names because this is just kind of like ambiguous. It's incognito. It's no, I'm thinking of Terrence Bud Crawford and Errol Spence, but I'm not saying that this is the case with them two guys. But I'm just saying that generational wealth and $10 million, that's like Mayweather taking his $18 million watch, throwing it into the middle of the ring and say, y'all two fight to the death for that watch. A watch. So to go over to BLK, to me, I look at it as him learning more of the business more than him making the money. And him not fighting Errol Spence is him being in the position of being outgunned in the business more than him not getting the money that he wants to get. Because I think he probably would have made more money with fighting Errol Spence. And he would have put himself in a position to be the legend, pound for pound status that he really was trying to get. But I don't think he would be able to win against Errol Spence, especially under those conditions. Outnumbered, outgunned, capitulating to all of the wills and desires of Errol Spence being in a better position. That would have transferred into the ring. Not to mention Errol Spence, big, strong southpaw, just finished breaking somebody down like that. And you coming off of a fight with Sean Porter that's somewhat WWE-ish. I think Terrence Bud Crawford was in a situation where he was about to get defeated and he retreated. That's my final thoughts. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Salute.